the series of the moment. Uzak Şehir, the new Turkish obsession you won't be able to stop watching. Get ready, because Uzak Şehir has become the series of the moment. Since its premiere in November 2024, it has continued to gain momentum, spark discussion, and attract a growing legion of viewers who can't get enough of its dramatic twists, intense atmosphere, and that constant sense of mystery that makes it impossible to stop watching. In Uzak Şehir, nothing is what it seems. The story blends family drama, secrets from the past, and characters shaped by decisions that change their lives forever. For that very reason, many already consider it the next major Turkish phenomenon. One of those productions that arrives quietly, and suddenly is everywhere. And of course, part of its appeal comes from its main cast: Ozan Akbaba, Müfit Kayacan, Atakan Özkaya, Sinem Ünsal, and Mine Kılıç, who deliver powerful and deeply immersive performances. Today, I'm going to tell you what makes Uzak Şehir so special, highlight its most important elements, share some interesting behind-the-scenes facts, and explain why so many people are saying it could be the biggest breakout series of the year. But before continuing, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video with your friends who also love the universe of Turkish series. The plot of Uzak Şehir. The story of Uzak Şehir revolves around Alya, played by Sinem Ünsal, a woman who has spent many years living in Canada, far from the conflicts, tensions, and traditions that shaped her youth in Turkey. After building a stable life abroad, her world collapses when she receives news of her husband's unexpected death. With her young son in her arms and a mixture of grief and obligation, Alya returns to Mardin, the city she left behind, where old family dynamics remain unchanged. What was meant to be a brief return limited to the funeral quickly turns into a web of pressure and silence that completely surrounds her. Alya finds herself trapped within the rigid rules of the Albora family, one of the most respected and feared families in the region. Inside that household, mourning is not her only challenge. Every decision, every movement, and every word is shaped by a network of traditions the family considers unbreakable. The series highlights the contrast between two opposing worlds: Alya's, representing a modern and independent life, and that of the Alboras, governed by family codes that determine everything from emotional relationships to each member's destiny. As she tries to protect her son and find a way to return to her life in Canada, Alya faces unexpected revelations about her husband and the family that now surrounds her, discovering that her return to Mardin is far from a simple visit. Uzak Şehir, as a remake of the Lebanese series Al-Haiba. One of the most discussed aspects of Uzak Şehir is its status as the Turkish remake of the successful Lebanese series Al-Haiba, a production that became a major phenomenon in the Arab world thanks to its blend of family drama, clan tensions, and a romance shaped by danger and impossible choices. Adapting such an influential story was a considerable challenge, but the Turkish version has managed to stand out by preserving the original spirit while building its own identity. In Al-Haiba, the narrative revolves around powerful families operating under rigid codes and nearly unbreakable authority structures. Uzak Şehir maintains this dramatic foundation, but relocates it to the socio-cultural context of Mardin, a Turkish region, where ancestral traditions and modern life coexist in constant tension. This reinterpretation gives new strength to the story and allows the adaptation to feel natural within the universe of Turkish television dramas. The setting also plays a fundamental role in this version. While the Lebanese series relies on arid landscapes and a distinctly tribal tone, Uzak Şehir makes use of symbolic Turkish environments, stone houses, historic villages, and locations that reinforce the sense of isolation and power surrounding the Albora family. In doing so, the production enhances its visual impact and gives the narrative a darker, more emotional atmosphere. In addition, the Turkish adaptation explores the psychological depth of its characters more extensively, especially Alya's internal conflict, her grief, and her growing sense of being trapped within a family structure she cannot control. This balance between fidelity and reinterpretation turns Uzak Şehir into a version that respects the essence of Al-Haiba, while successfully reinventing it for a new audience with the distinctive intensity of contemporary Turkish drama. The chemistry between Sinem Ünsal and Ozan Akbaba. One of the elements that has contributed most to the impact of Uzak Şehir is the powerful chemistry between Sinem Ünsal, Alya, and Ozan Akbaba, Cihan. From the very first episode, their interaction creates a constant tension that blends distrust, restrained attraction, and a deep clash of personalities, becoming one of the emotional driving forces of the series. Alya arrives in Mardin at a moment of extreme vulnerability, marked by loss, fear, and the feeling of returning to a world she no longer belongs to. Cihan, on the other hand, embodies strength, firmness, and the traditional authority of the Albora family. The series makes strong use of this contrast to build scenes filled with intensity, where nothing needs to be said explicitly for the audience to feel the weight of the connection between them. What makes their chemistry especially compelling is that it is not based on direct romantic gestures, but on lingering looks, tense conversations, and silences that reveal more than words ever could. With each encounter, Alya seems torn between the need to escape and the unavoidable presence of Cihan in her life, while he struggles between protecting her, controlling her, or allowing her to define her own path. This ambiguity gives their relationship an unpredictable tone that keeps viewers engaged and creates strong anticipation about what may develop between them. In addition, Ünsal and Akbaba bring very different acting styles to their roles, which further intensifies the impact of their shared scenes. Sinem conveys both fragility and resilience at the same time, while Ozan builds a character defined by outward toughness and deep internal conflict. This combination brings to life one of the most talked-about dramatic pairings of the season: the visual approach and the setting in Mardin. One of the elements that most distinguishes Uzak Şehir among recent Turkish productions is its powerful visual approach. The series does not use Mardin simply as a backdrop, but as a narrative component that shapes the tone, tension, and emotional identity of the story. Mardin is an ancient city, marked by its stone architecture, labyrinth-like streets, and an almost timeless atmosphere. All of this becomes a direct reflection of Alya's inner journey and the weight the Albora family places upon her. The direction relies on a palette of earthy tones, ochres, and deep shadows that emphasize the sense of oppression surrounding the protagonist. Narrow corridors, silent courtyards, and traditional houses function as metaphors for her feeling of confinement. With every family dinner, every fixed gaze, and every imposed tradition, the environment reinforces the idea that Alya is trapped in a physical and emotional space she did not choose. The cinematography also plays a decisive role. The camera often remains still, observing from a distance, almost as if the city itself were watching the protagonist's every move. When Alya appears alone, the lighting becomes colder and more distant. In scenes with the Albora family, stronger shadows and harsher lighting dominate, reinforcing the tension and the power structures that govern that household. Another striking choice is the use of long, quiet shots. The series is not afraid of silence or slow pacing. It allows the viewer to breathe alongside the characters, notice details of the environment, and feel the isolation and rigidity of their routine. Mardin is not just a location. It is an emotional labyrinth, a territory with its own rules, a world that shapes and threatens those who enter it. This visual care sets Uzak Şehir apart from many contemporary dramas set in large cities. Here, the rural and historical aesthetic strengthens the psychological impact of the narrative and elevates the series to a more cinematic level, where each setting speaks as powerfully as the dialogue itself. The impact of the secondary characters and the Albora family. Although Alya and Cihan carry much of the central storyline, Uzak Şehir would not be what it is without the decisive presence of its secondary characters, especially the members of the Albora family, whose influence shapes every decision, every movement, and every conflict within the narrative. The series carefully portrays how this rigid family structure operates, a system that does not tolerate dissent and is governed by ancestral codes that everyone must respect, even those who come from outside. At first glance, the members of the Albora family may appear authoritarian or distant, but the narrative makes it clear that each of them has deep motivations, personal conflicts, and a past marked by loss, rivalry, and social obligations. These layers enrich the story and prevent the characters from becoming mere stereotypes. Instead, they represent different facets of a single system that, through tradition, imposes itself on the individual. What is most interesting is how each family member plays a strategic role in Alia's destiny. Some observe her with suspicion, others try to control her openly, while there are those who see her as a threat to the established order. However, there are also characters who show a degree of empathy or concern, revealing that not everyone within the Albora family agrees with the path the family follows. These small cracks are essential for creating dramatic tension and for suggesting that internal changes may happen at any moment. Secret alliances, silence-filled conversations, and internal power struggles within the family create an unstable environment where any detail can trigger serious consequences. For Alia, this means living under constant scrutiny, never knowing whom she can trust. For the audience, it means following a complex network of relationships that adds depth to the narrative and expands the emotional impact of the series. In short, the secondary characters are not merely supporting roles. They form the mechanism that keeps the world of Mardin in motion and define the obstacles and possible allies that Alia will encounter along her journey. Uzak Şehir has established itself as one of the most striking series of recent months, and each episode confirms why it has attracted so much attention. The story of Alia, forced to return to Mardin and confront a world she believed she had left behind, connects with viewers from the very beginning. Her struggle against the traditions of the Albora family, the constant tension surrounding every decision, and her emotionally charged relationship with Sihan drive the narrative forward and always leave an open question for what comes next. The visual atmosphere, the depth of the secondary characters, and the weight of tradition further expand the story and present a complex portrait of a world where nothing is simple and every gesture has consequences. If you haven't watched the series yet, this is a great time to start and understand why so many viewers are talking about it. And if you are already following it, I'd love to know what impressed you the most. Alia's story, Cihan's presence, or the oppressive atmosphere of Mardin. Leave your comment, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any analysis, insights, or updates about the best Turkish productions of the moment.